Good evening. This is Glenn Zermano. I am a psychotherapist at My Therapy NYC, and I'm here tonight to present a webinar on understanding and coping with anxiety. So thank you for joining us. Just a couple of things I want to go over before we start is just to give you a little background on My Therapy NYC. My Therapy NYC is a counseling and wellness practice. We offer individual, couples, and group counseling. As you see here, we also offer webinars and post blog posts on our website. Occasionally, we also offer wellness workshops that are available at our practice. So I'll give more information about how to get more information about My Therapy NYC at the end of this webinar. A couple things to also notice on your screen to the right is a chat screen. So if you have questions throughout the webinar, feel free to write them. I won't be able to get to them during, but I will do my best to answer all of them at the end. So have at that. And then just to remind folks, there's a 30-second delay, so I won't be able to respond immediately. There's a little bit of delay for questions, and that's that. So I am Glenn Zermano. As I said, I'm a licensed clinical social worker here at My Therapy NYC. I offer individual and couples counseling, and I also facilitate a monthly meditation group. So that's that. So we'll start with a PowerPoint. I'll get that going right now. You should see that on your screen. And so the webinar tonight is focused on understanding and coping with anxiety. Here we go. So the goals for this webinar, there's a few of them, is to understand the function of anxiety. Also to learn what happens in your body physiologically that produces symptoms of anxiety. You'll learn to recognize triggers that bring on anxiety and shift them into opportunities to get grounded and become more present. We'll develop skills to cope with and manage anxiety. And then we'll review 2 simple techniques to ease anxiety at the onset. So we'll go through this PowerPoint, and at the end, we'll stop and I'll demonstrate 2 different techniques to manage anxiety. Right, so what is anxiety? So anxiety is a normal emotional and physiological reaction to stress. So examples of stress might be change, risk, new experiences, or perceptions of threat. Anxiety is usually characterized by nervousness, fear, apprehension, worrying, and physical symptoms. In anxiety, it's a built-in response. So our bodies are hardwired to react to stress in ways meant to protect us against threats from predators or other aggressors. And that's not necessarily what we experience today, but those threats can still present themselves in the form of stress. So today, such threats are rare, but that doesn't mean life is stress-free. So ideally, anxieties are to protect us in moments of stress or threat. Anxiety is a signal that tells us to prepare to react to stress, to remove us from danger, to fight it off, or to reduce the harm from a potential threat. And understanding what's happening in your body and why it's happening can help to regain a sense of control over your body when activated by stress. So that's part of the point of this webinar, is to help get a better understanding of how anxiety works in our bodies. So actually, what happens in your body? What are the symptoms that are produced by anxiety? So when you encounter a perceived threat, the hypothalamus, a tiny region at the base of the brain, sets off an alarm system in your body called the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the part of the autonomic nervous system that triggers the body into action as a reaction to stress. Through a combination of nerve and hormonal signals, this system prompts your adrenal glands located atop your kidneys, and stress hormones are signaled to release. And so that produces the physical and mental reactions that are so familiar when we think about anxiety. So what are the stress hormones? So the sympathetic nervous system produces stress hormones. There's 3 primary stress hormones released by the sympathetic nervous system. The first is adrenaline. The next is norepinephrine. And the third is cortisol. Adrenaline, which is familiar, is known as the fight or flight hormone. And it's largely responsible for the immediate reactions we experience when stressed. It increases our heart rate, It gives you a surge of energy to help you leave a dangerous situation, and also helps you focus your attention. The next stress hormone is norepinephrine. And the primary role of this hormone is arousal. A similar function to adrenaline, acts as a backup. So you become more awake, more focused, more aware. It helps to shift blood flow towards muscles, and the effects of this hormone can last for minutes or even up to a couple of days. And then the third is cortisol. So cortisol is a steroid hormone, and it takes more time to feel the effects of this hormone. The release of this hormone involves a multi-step process, and cortisol helps to maintain fluid balance and blood pressure. So this is really a hormone that comes into play during survival, like post an attack or something that's very triggering and has created a strong reaction. So in survival mode, cortisol is responsible for regulating body functions. This is a hormone that can be released over time when we are dealing with chronic anxiety and stress that can lead to more serious health issues. So common symptoms of anxiety. So those stress hormones trigger a response, a physical response, an emotional response, and these are some of the most familiar, the most common: increased heart rate and rapid or constricted breathing, sweating, nausea or stomach upset, feeling dizzy or lightheaded, tight or painful chest, and numbness or tingling sensations. And so we'll break those down. Each actually has a function and a purpose. So increased heart rate and rapid or constricted breathing. So when the body is preparing to take action, it makes sure there's enough blood and oxygen being circulated to the major muscle groups and essential organs. This allows you to run away or fight off danger. Sweating cools the body. It makes the skin more slippery and difficult for an attacking animal or person to grab a hold of you, which is hopefully not the case. Nausea, stomach upset, which is often very common when folks get very anxious, is when faced with danger, the body shuts down systems or processes that are not necessary for survival. That way it can direct energy to functions that are critical to survival that allow you to fight or escape. So digestion is a system that is not critical to survival. As a result, anxiety might lead to feelings of stomach upset, nausea, or diarrhea. Feeling dizzy or lightheaded. In times of anxiety, stress, or danger, blood and oxygen go to major muscle groups, like we said before, primarily the arms and legs, to help you fend off danger or to escape. Breathing rate increases in order to move oxygen more quickly to those muscles. The result can be dizziness or feeling lightheaded. There's also a slight decrease of blood to the brain, which can also make you feel dizzy. And then tight and painful chest. Muscles tense as your body prepares for danger. So when you get stressed, typically when you're at ease, you're relaxed, muscles are more slack, the joints are loose. When you get stressed, everything tightens up and flexes. So your chest muscles may feel tight due to hyperventilation. It may feel tight or painful when you try to take in large breaths when chest muscles are tense. And then finally, numbness or tingling sensations. Hyperventilation, as in taking in too much oxygen, can cause numbness and tingling sensations. Also, the hairs on our body stand up when faced with danger. You might notice that, like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up when you're scared by something. And that's to increase our sensitivity to touch or movement. The fingers and toes may also feel numb or tingly as blood flows away from places it's not needed towards major muscle groups where it's needed, such as the arms and legs. So with all of this said, when stress becomes anxiety, so what's happening? The body's stress response, the sympathetic nervous system, is usually self-limiting. It can restore itself back to balance once the stimulating situation has passed. So here we are, once the threat has passed, hormone levels return to normal. However, when stresses are always present in our lives or perceived to be present, the fight, flight, or freeze response stays activated. This results in anxiety. So what can we do? So managing anxiety and recognizing triggers that bring on anxiety is a step. So having an awareness of common symptoms common symptoms of anxiety may help you to better anticipate anxiety when it's coming on. Having familiarity with symptoms that are unique to your anxiety may help you to be more effective in your reaction and to minimize the intensity of anxiety. Being aware of things like time of day, activity you're engaged in when anxiety starts, as well as your location or surroundings may be helpful. So knowing the triggering surroundings you can have more control. If you know that these are places or things that you do that can set you off, you might avoid those situations or be prepared with a coping technique to manage. The better you get at tracking the patterns of your anxiety may give you more of a sense of control over it. And then being able to anticipate or predict anxiety may increase your feelings of competence in managing it. And having a greater sense of control may result in less anxiety and control of reactions to stress. So what can you do? What are ways to cope and manage anxiety? In most instances, anxiety is brought on by a familiar stressor, not necessarily danger. So finding techniques that feel accessible and enjoyable to help, enjoyable to you can help. So something that's easy, something you can do anywhere you go, something that makes you feel better just in general. Some examples might include slow, deep breathing, known as belly breathing, which I'll demonstrate shortly. Mindful meditation, physical activity. So doing things that get you out of your head into your body is definitely a way to help manage anxiety. Talking to someone you trust. And then removing yourself from the stressful situation, if at all possible. So here's the first practice demonstration that if you are game, you can join in, follow along. So the first thing you want to do in a belly breathing exercise is to sit with your feet on the ground so you feel the ground underneath you. Sit comfortably so that you feel grounded with whatever seat or cushion or bed underneath you is there for support. Let your hands rest on your thighs, on your knees. Feel your spine long. And just allow the body to be settled and present. So when we get really anxious, we get pulled out. We might feel pulled out of our bodies. We might feel dissociated. So coming into an intentional seated pose can really help us begin to feel more present. And you can bring one hand to your chest, one hand to your belly. And take a breath in through your nose. And then exhale with a sigh. So part of the most important thing in belly breathing is the exhale. So lots of times when I'm talking with people in a session and they're feeling anxious, and I'll encourage them to breathe, they might draw in a deep breath and then say, that doesn't help. So the reason it doesn't help is because you also need to exhale. That releases the tension. So drawing in the breath is drawing in oxygen. It's calming the mind. It's indicating you're out of danger. The exhale releases the tension. So we'll do this a few times together. So feet on the ground, long spine, shoulders relaxed, belly soft. You let your one hand rest on your chest, one hand on your belly. And you draw a breath in through your nose and feel your belly expand like a balloon. So your belly should go out. And then exhale through your nose, belly button towards spine, empty out. And then again, inhale breath into your belly. And then exhale, belly button towards spine, empty out. We'll do it 2 more times. Inhale in through your nose, into your belly. And then exhale, belly button towards spine. And one final time. Inhale. And exhale. Release your hands. And just take a moment to notice the effects. You might notice feeling a little more spaciousness in your head and your forehead. Sometimes people start to yawn when they take in breath. It's an indication that they may need more oxygen. And so you just notice the effects. It's a practice that you don't necessarily perfect it the first time, but like anything, it takes practice. When we're anxious, we develop a lot of familiarity with those symptoms. And so it may take a little bit of time to be able to shift that. So there you have it. So now we'll move on to meditation. Okay, it's coming right up. So mindful meditation, cultivating a meditation practice, is another technique for managing anxiety. So just meditation is a practice of calming the body and mind using breath awareness. It's not about stopping your mind, rather settling into the flow of what comes up. And so meditation is a practice to help cultivate ease in your daily life, to help manage anxiety. It creates an opportunity to sit comfortably and notice thoughts, feelings, and sensations in your body and mind. It also is a process that allows you to consider how to respond to stress and anxiety. So as you meditate, you can give attention to issues and concerns in your life. As you incorporate mindful breathing, you may discover a softening around the rough edges in your mind that often is created by stress and anxiety. So a few things to consider in your meditation practice. The first is to notice what comes up. When you sit to meditate, you may begin to notice all the thoughts that suddenly emerge. Give attention to the quality of the thoughts. Are they intense? Are they subtle? Or somewhere in between? How do you respond to what comes up? One option is to breathe. When you breathe, you signal your mind to relax and be more present. The result may be an increased capacity to give attention to what comes up. The next thing is to name what comes up. As you meditate, you may be surprised by the thoughts and feelings that enter your mind. If they cause distress, you can name them. For example, if you feel sadness, acknowledge the feeling and say to yourself, sadness, and breathe. You may notice an increased ability to experience that feeling. Continue to breathe and notice where you feel it in your body. Notice any tendencies to avoid a feeling. Naming what comes up and breathing into it can remind us that we may have a greater capacity to navigate a variety of feelings than you may have previously thought. Your breath can help you through them. And then the last is to be with what comes up. So in our lives, we may feel too busy to be with thoughts and feelings that arise. We push them away, ignore them, or distract ourselves. Being with what comes up and breathing can give you invaluable information about areas of your life that may need and deserve attention. Breathing may create space for openness and understanding of the difficult things you may be facing. And meditation is a practice. It invites you to find ease in your life by slowing down to notice, name, and be with what comes up. So rather than resisting the flow of thoughts and feelings, consider using your breath to support you through them. All right, so there we have meditation. So I invite you to begin a practice with that. And just as a side note, here at My Therapy NYC, I offer a monthly meditation group the second Saturday of each month at noon. It's an hour long. And if you are interested, we can, we'll give you more information at the end of this webinar with our website, and you can check out. And I think on your chat screen, there's a little pop-up that just came up about the meditation group, so you can check that out and register for the next one. So the last thing as we close is a webinar poll that we posted. I'm not sure if I mentioned that at the beginning, but there's a poll with some questions about how do you cope with anxiety. So I think there were 5 options, and so now we're going to get to see the results of that. So here we have, so the options were talk to someone about it, sit quietly and breathe deeply. The next is avoid the anxiety-producing situation at all costs. The next is do something physical to get out of your head. And finally, the last is drink or use substances to numb the anxiety. So of everyone that responded, we came up with 56% decided to talk to someone about it. 22% chose to sit quietly and deeply breathe. There were 0 responses for the avoiding the situation, which sometimes is not possible. We had 22% who chose to do something physical to get out of their heads, and no one chose to drink or use substances. So we have a healthy group here. All right, so we're going to move on to answering some questions if you have questions. And while we're getting that going, we have our web address up on the screen, which is www.mytherapynyc.com. You can go there and find out more about the meditation group, about all the services we offer, and hope to hear more from you. So here we are back with a couple of questions. The first question is from Matt, and he says, I've tried deep breathing as a way to deal with my anxiety, and I find that it really doesn't work. I've found that too. So when you're really stressed and anxious, shifting any kind of feeling or pattern in your body takes a little bit of time and practice. So the first thing is noticing if when you are practicing deep breathing, if you are exhaling, because the exhale is a really important part of that, because that's the releasing of the tension. So just remember that you're not just drawing breath in, but really letting it out. So also in just continuing practicing it. It takes some time to feel something shift, especially when you feel something very strongly. You might feel just a subtle shift, maybe not that it goes away completely. So thank you, Matt, for that question. And then we have another question from Sarah. And Sarah asks, she says, I notice that when I don't get enough sleep or if I drink a lot the night before, I feel more anxious the next day. Why is that? That's a good question. Though being tired or worn down by things like drinking or lack of sleep can really limit your capacity to cope effectively. So a good thing to remember is that doing things preventively, like having a self-care practice, if anxiety is something that you struggle with in your life, that self-care is a priority, and also moderation. So knowing that if you have drinks the night before, the next day you may feel a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit less able to cope or tolerate difficult feelings. So I think that looks like it's about it for our questions. I'd like to thank everyone who tuned in for showing up, and I hope that you found this useful. There's some useful information here. We will send out a copy of this webinar to those who registered. I believe it will also be on our website. And thank you again, and be well.